In a world that praises kindness, few dare to speak of fear. We are told to win hearts, to please, to compromise. But beneath the surface of civility, power still obeys an ancient law. You can love someone and betray them, but you cannot fear someone and defy them at the same time. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both," a phrase often quoted, but rarely understood. He wasn't glorifying cruelty. He was describing human nature in its rawest form. Love depends on gratitude. Fear depends on survival. And in moments of chaos, people always choose survival. Fear is not hatred. It is respect sharpened to a fine edge. It's the silent agreement that power demands. You may not love me, but you will not cross me. The truth is, love is fickle. It fades with distance, with failure, with time. But fear lingers. It shapes behavior even in your absence. A ruler who is loved is obeyed when convenient. A ruler who is feared is obeyed even when unseen. So in this video, we'll explore why fear is the foundation of real authority, how it has been used across history, and why, in your own life, your work, relationships, and ambitions, being loved might win applause, but being feared will win control. To understand Machiavelli's rule, we must understand what these two forces, love and fear, truly are. Love is emotional currency. It binds people through affection, admiration, or loyalty. But love, by its nature, is conditional. People love you for what you give them: comfort, hope, safety, validation. And when you can no longer give it, love evaporates. Fear, on the other hand, binds people through consequence. It does not rely on goodwill or mood. It relies on structure. Fear is not random panic. It is controlled respect. It is the understanding that betrayal will come at a cost. That is why love may inspire loyalty, but fear ensures it. When Machiavelli wrote The Prince, he wasn't crafting a manifesto for tyrants. He was diagnosing reality. He observed rulers who believed their popularity made them safe, and watched as they were torn apart by the very people who once cheered for them. He studied how Cesare Borgia, son of Pope Alexander VI, rose to power through a blend of charm and terror. Borgia understood that people follow love when times are good, but they follow fear when the storm arrives. When he had to restore order in a lawless province, Borgia had his lieutenant, Ramiro de Orco, to enforce discipline. De Orco ruled brutally. Executions, curfews, fear. When stability returned, Borgia had de Orco executed publicly to appear merciful. In one stroke, he earned both fear and admiration. He showed that the most effective ruler is one who controls perception, one who can appear compassionate while remaining unchallenged. Modern people hear fear and think of dictators, but the principle is older, more psychological. It applies to every form of leadership, from empires to boardrooms to personal relationships. The one who commands fear commands stability. The one who depends on love commands as long as he pleases. Because when people stop loving you, they turn away. But when they fear disappointing you, they stay. Let's look deeper into history, where the truth of this principle repeats itself like a warning bell through time. Caesar understood the necessity of balance. He inspired deep loyalty among his legions, not by love alone, but through awe. They feared his wrath more than they loved his charm. He rewarded victory with gold and punished betrayal with death. When a man commands both admiration and dread, his presence becomes mythic. But when the Senate grew to love him too much, or rather, to see him as too powerful, their envy shattered that love. They stabbed him not because they hated him, but because they no longer feared him. Familiarity breeds contempt. Fear prevents it. Khan ruled the largest contiguous empire in history. He began as a hunted exile, betrayed, enslaved, beaten. But through calculated terror, he created order. He didn't massacre for pleasure. He did it to engrave memory. Entire cities surrendered without a fight, not out of love, but because stories of his fury traveled faster than his armies. And when he conquered a city, he offered protection and law to those who submitted. Mercy within structure, fear with fairness, the perfect balance of Machiavellian power. In a court filled with plots and poison, Catherine learned quickly that to survive, she could not afford to be merely loved. She ascended to the throne after her husband's mysterious death and ruled with cold grace. She cultivated admiration through art and culture, but fear through her decisiveness. When her generals hesitated, she replaced them. When her enemies conspired, she made examples of them. The result? An empire that adored her beauty but trembled at her silence. Across these examples, one truth emerges. Love without fear invites betrayal. Fear without love invites rebellion. But together, they create stability. You might think this only applies to kings and conquerors, but look closer. In every modern arena, from relationships to workplaces to politics, this rule still governs behavior. In leadership, the boss who wants to be loved by everyone becomes the weakest. He avoids confrontation, tolerates laziness, fears rejection. His team respects him less because he values comfort over discipline. Contrast this with the leader who sets boundaries, who commands silence when he speaks, not through yelling, but through presence. That is modern fear. Respect disguised as quiet power. In relationships, the same dynamic unfolds. The person who chases love endlessly becomes dependent on validation. They fear losing affection, and in doing so, they surrender power. But the person who commands subtle respect, the one who can walk away without flinching, creates attraction rooted in psychological dominance. People are drawn to those they cannot fully possess. Fear of loss intensifies desire. This doesn't mean cruelty, it means controlled detachment. You must never make others believe you need them more than they need you. Even in love, power decides who leads and who follows. In politics and public life, politicians today perform love. They smile, promise, and flatter. But behind every stable administration lies enforcement, laws, consequences, deterrence. Fear is not hatred, it is the spine of order. The moment authority tries to please everyone, it begins to die. So too in life. If your goal is to be universally loved, you will bend until you break. But if you can be respected, even feared, you will stand alone, unshaken. Ask yourself, do people obey you because they want to or because they must? If it's the former, your power depends on their feelings. If it's the latter, your power is real.
Why does fear work? Because at the core of the human psyche lies a truth that moral teachings try to suppress. We are more motivated by loss than by gain. Psychologists call it loss aversion. We will fight harder not to lose something we value than to gain something new. That's the foundation of Machiavelli's logic. People are loyal to what they fear losing. Fear taps into the primal brain. It activates survival, attention, and memory. That's why a single act of controlled punishment can influence behavior more than 1,000 kind words. But again, fear must be measured. If it crosses into cruelty, it breeds hatred, and hatred consumes both ruler and ruled. Fear must remain a boundary, not a weapon. You must never let people hate you, only respect you enough to avoid crossing you. Machiavelli warned, a prince must desire to be feared, but not hated. To achieve this, he advised using fear indirectly, through systems, not emotions. The law, the structure, the silence of your disapproval. These command more obedience than violence ever could. In personal life, this means creating an aura of consequence. If people know that betraying your trust, wasting your time, or disrespecting your presence has a cost, you will never need to raise your voice. Fear becomes invisible discipline. You do not instill it, you evoke it. That is the highest form of control.
To be loved is pleasant. To be feared is powerful. But the ultimate mastery lies in understanding when to use each. Love wins loyalty in calm seas. Fear secures survival in storms. Machiavelli's wisdom is not a call to cruelty, it is a call to clarity. It teaches us that power is never granted, it is enforced through perception. And perception is ruled by two emotions that define all human behavior: affection and dread. If you wish to lead, to command, to remain unshaken, you must never depend solely on love. For when love falters, fear will keep the gates closed. Remember this: when people love you, they may follow you, but when they fear losing your approval, they obey you. And in a world that worships charm, yet obeys dominance, the one who learns to balance both rules not through kindness or cruelty, but through understanding. Learn more about mastering perception and power in the works of Aristotle and Machiavelli, or through modern interpretations like Nicomachean Ethics, available now on Audible.